Murali End. Welcome to the show. We here when you're high, we here when you're low. Some days you're happy, some days you wanna when happy it's we, when man it's them. It's the same place, Murali End. Sri Lanka cricket we go represent. Go tell a friend.
Welcome to Murali End. My name is Mark Machado. I'm in London. I'm joined by my cousin across the pond, Dominic Machado, the professor of cricketology in Boston. And I'm joined by Sri Lanka's #1 cricket historian, Nicholas Brooks, who's also in London. But we're gathered here today to celebrate Sri Lanka's win in the first ODI against England, which took place in Colombo. Sri Lanka won by a margin of 19 runs in the end. But apart from a little bit kind of early on, it kind of felt a bit like what I'm going to call a regulation victory from a not so regulation first 11 from Sri Lanka. There's a lot to discuss from this. If you're new to the Murali End, if you're joining us on Combox, which is a new channel that we're now part of as well. Thank you for coming. Hit the subscribe, hit the follow. We talk about Sri Lankan cricket. We do these shows after every game, and we do other shows as well. This is your chance to come on and have your say as well. We'll have, the way it works is we'll have a little chat, then we'll open up the studio, and you guys can come join us as well. Nick, I'll come to you first. Let's get right. Oh, actually, no, I was going to say, let's get right back to the beginning of the day. We won't do that. How were you feeling when Jamie Overton poke-evolved into kind of prime Joss Butler in that penultimate over?
I was panicking, man. I've got to say, I'd already checked out, and like I was in my pajamas. I got changed for this, and I was like, I better get back in front of the telly. It was closer than it needed to be, closer than I thought it was going to be, around the 35-40 over mark. And how crucial did that last over with the bat from Dunith Walalage turn out to be? That was it, 23 off the final Jamie Overton over, really gave Sri Lanka some momentum. And I always felt that 280 was going to be too tall a task for England. It didn't look it when Ben Duckett and Joe Root were going really nicely together, but those two are by far England's two best players of spin. And once that partnership broke, it unraveled in a hurry. Really impressive from Sri Lanka. Very good with the ball. Great innings from Kusal with the bat. Really nicely supported by the lower middle order. And I don't think England fans will realise how ugly a defeat this is when you... take into account this is essentially a second string Sri Lanka bowling attack, right?
Yeah, loads to talk about with our batting. Let's get into our bowling, though, because, Dom, when we saw that team this morning, that 11, I think all of us took a big, deep breath, right? Where's our two spin superstars, right? We're bowling 30 overs, 40 overs of spin, whatever it was today. We know it's going to rag all over the place in Colombo. We're in control of this pitch. We know exactly what's going to happen. And it turns out that we're not playing our two best spinners, Hasaranga and Deekshana. What were your thoughts when you saw who was bowling for us today?
I mean, I sent you guys a message being like, what the heck is this bowling lineup that we're looking at right now? Pramod Madushan, Asita Fernando, Junith Walalage, and Jeffrey van der Sey is not exactly our first 11 of any bowling lineup. And we were only playing 4 bowlers. So the obvious thing was, well, the ball, it's going to turn, and Charath and DDS are going to bowl close to 10 overs, which they pretty much eventually did. It's kind of, you feel two ways about it, because you see what the strategy is. It's play on a pitch that's ragging and turning a lot, and trust that England isn't going to be able to handle it in a chase. Is that useful through 2 weeks out from a World Cup where conditions may be different? I don't know, maybe not. I don't know how much the ICC can change in this Premadasa pitch in a couple of weeks, but it was certainly an interesting strategy to employ, right? I'd imagine Kusal is thinking 2 weeks before his warm-up, this is not the kind of innings I need to be playing in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, I want to talk about Kusal's innings because I was very impressed with the fact that he was in the 90s. There was 2 overs to go, and he didn't push to try and get 100. And actually, he let that final over. He was happy with Weller sitting on one end and finding the boundary. Again, that ends up being our marginal victory, but it's an incredibly mature innings from a Sri Lanka player, often quite maligned for his apparent immaturity, right, Nick?
Totally, Marky. And I guess I would just kind of like, something I want to say is, I've waxed lyrical about Pathum Nissanka, and I think that he is Sri Lanka's #1 batter. But I think if there's one area that Pathum could slightly grow and improve, it's kind of identifying pitches, when to go really hard and when to kind of pull back a little. He seems a bit like a kid who's got amazing new toys, which he does, and he wants to play with them all the time. But like today was a kind of an example of that, I felt, where he wanted to bash it in the power play, and it clearly wasn't a 300 pitch, although 280 almost wasn't a winning target, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But I felt like Kusal identified that it was a lower scoring pitch from the start and understood how to play on that pitch, right? The ball wasn't coming onto the bat, and it was really notable that he was waiting, he was playing really late, and he was scoring square of the wicket against the spinners with cuts and sweeps. And I think we saw the same in the England innings, right? That Joe Root and Ben Duckett, the batters who were successful, played the ball late, played the ball square, didn't try and like push it down the ground. But yeah, I thought it was a very, very mature innings from Kusal. It helped that he got nice little contributions from Charith, from Lianage, from Weller. And even though we kept feeling like Sri Lanka lost wickets at bad times, they never got too stuck, right? I thought they were really good rotating strike today.
Yeah. Oh, go on, Dom.
I was going to say, I think that's interesting because I think one of the things you think about, or one of the critiques that's been leveled against Sri Lanka's batting, is you have these series of anchors, but they did the right thing. One person dropped anchor, and then everybody else batted around him, tried to score runs. And it was good to actually see that mentality play out and not everyone just soaking up dot balls. We should talk. There's an interesting question, a posit to our discussion of Kusal's maturity. Would you call Harry Brooks' play in this innings reckless, given the circumstances? Because I think it's a really good question to think about how Kusal played this innings and then how Harry Brook approached it, especially as a captain coming in at 5.
So I like, obviously I follow a lot of English cricket because I spend at least half the year in England, and my kind of wider reading it is I don't think Harry Brooks at this moment in time has got a decision to make, in my opinion, on basically how serious he wants to take cricket. A few years ago, when he was breaking into the scene, he was being touted as the next great thing, as the next great all format batter. He's kind of the white ball captain at the moment. Is he vice captain of the Test side?
Sure is.
Think so. Yeah. Meant to be the kind of the apprentice to Joe Root's kind of master, right? But actually, I see so much of the decisions I see him make on the pitch and even off the pitch. And this isn't just about the incident in New Zealand, but in general around which franchise he's going to play, where he's going to play his cricket, how he plays his cricket. I just don't. In my view, Harry Brook doesn't take cricket as seriously as he needs to take it. I think today we saw some of the decisions he was making on the pitch. It felt to me like maybe he was kind of misreading what was actually going on. Joe Root and Ben Duckett put England into a phenomenal position today. I was sitting there and thinking, yeah, maybe Joe Root is actually as good as people say he is, because he turns up in Sri Lanka after a really tough tour of Australia. The climate is totally different. You step out in Colombo you have to fill 50 overs in Colombo at the moment, and you're exhausted, even if you're not bowling or keeping wicket, right? And then he goes into bat. Ends up batting pretty early, high up, and he's absolutely prime. Duckett as well. Duckett's there from the first ball, right? Puts England into a really great position, and then after that, the two of them get out, and it just. No, apart from Overton at the end, I just don't think that kind of maturity was there. I think I'm being slightly harsh on Josh Butler because he's in a position where he's got to try and finish the game off. So, and you know exactly what his game is. So I think that's what we saw. But I think this England side, and I'm obviously not an England fan. I I cover Sri Lanka cricket, but I do watch it. I do follow them quite close, as closely as other people would. I feel like Brooke doesn't take it seriously. This was always going to be a total banana skin. You don't want to be turning up to Sri Lanka, to Colombo, and have to try and get wins early on, in terms of having to qualify for an ODI World Cup. I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen the next two games, but today I think England were just kind of underprepared for the whole thing. And again, we said this earlier on. This is not. There's about 5 or 6 bowlers who could have been bowling for Sri Lanka today who were considerably better than what we saw today. This is a kind of B team for Sri Lanka, bowling attack at least. Though I do think the Sri Lankan players we saw today were hungry. I think Walala Gay, player of the match, scored runs, took wickets, took catches. That's a guy that wants to be playing in that T20 World Cup, and he had an opportunity, and he said, "Right, you ain't going to drop me after this," and he kind of took it.
I was going to say that was so impressive. I mean, like my thought is he should be batting at 4 for us in the T20 World Cup, right? Because he's got good batting capabilities. He can anchor an innings, and obviously he gives you a ton as a bowler and a fielder. I mean, that catch in the outfield, the multiple catches, first catch off his own bowling, and that catch in the outfield were absolutely star-studded things, right? The idea that he would not be in a squad is crazy, right? You see the energy, the passion he brings. You want players like that, especially around this side.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick, what's just because we're talking a little bit about England, we won't spend too long talking about them, but what's your kind of read on their kind of situation in terms of having to get wins now for the next 2 games? Because I mean, we're all, try for Sri Lanka starts off this whole conversation of we'd much rather basically be playing T20 games in terms of Sri Lanka, right? But England need to win these matches, which I think actually, England need to win these matches, and Sri Lanka have a load of players who need to try and find form coming in and the place in this T20 team, right? In a way, playing a kind of different format for for 2 more games kind of feels irrelevant, but also kind of relevant as well, because it gives the players a bit of shade almost to try and get all those things right.
Yeah, and no, there's a bit of spice for this for England now. I do think they were probably underprepared, Marky. You look at the team they picked this morning, and I know Will Jacks got ill, maybe had a dodgy Kotu or was out at R&B last night. But I mean, 2 frontline wrist spinners, is that the way to go in Sri Lanka? Have we seen Sri Lanka ever do that? Like on pitches like this, you want finger spinners, right? Because it's going to turn a lot and you need bowlers who are accurate. I think it was the same with Harry Brook. I don't think his shot was that reckless. I think he just hasn't really figured out a method against spin on these kind of pitches, and he thought that he could smother the spin. But when he should have been trying to play maybe a bit more like Joe Root. But I thought today this would have been a great pitch for Theekshana, bowling a little bit faster. I know it turned more when the bowlers went slower and turned more as the game went on, but I thought Theeks would have caused real problems on this. Yep. So, look, I'd expect Sri Lanka to win the next game and to be putting pressure for a clean sweep. For me, it looks like England are going to be very reliant on that pair today of Root and Duckett to do a lot of heavy lifting for them if they're going to get over the line.
I was going to ask about Crawley, but this is a Sri Lankan cricket show, so we should talk about Sri Lanka. There was a question that came in that I want to go that we didn't quite have time to talk about. Also, if you want to join the conversation, if you want to come on screen and have a chat with us, please do. I've put the link in the comments section. This from KZ Players 2041 said, KZ Plays, sorry. What do you think the plan was at the death where we only bowled slow balls? Found it very frustrating. So my kind of theory is I think Sri Lanka, our batters are really struggling with picking up slow balls. Patton got out today with Sam Curran's slow ball, and I feel like this is something we've seen, particularly our top order players, get caught with, literally caught out to, literally quite a lot recently. I haven't got the stats on that. If anyone has any stats on that, stick them in the comment section or come on and talk to us about it. And I kind of feel sometimes we throw up to the opposition what we struggle with. I don't know if you guys think that this is a totally ridiculous suggestion, or if you think there might be something in it. What do you think, Dom?
So my thought was they saw what Sam Curran and the like were doing with the slower balls in the England inning, and they were pretty effective. But the problem is neither of the two guys who were delivering them are experts at that. They're not. That's not their skill set. You know, with Asatha, you want the Yorker, right? With Pramod Madashan, I mean, I don't really think he's much of a death bowler. I don't think that's in his skill set. So I think they saw what happened in the England innings, and that moon ball from Sam Curran is crazy, right? It's like 75 Ks. There were some really slow deliveries today too from Adil Rashid that were like in the 60s or whatnot. So I think they tried to copy that, but they just didn't have the execution. And that almost ended up costing us because, as we said, this is not our A bowling side. Like if it's Patirana, I can deal with him bowling a few slower balls in there, or Nuwan Tushar, someone who does it regularly, or Chamira, for that matter. But these are not guys who do that and employ that regularly, and it's not necessarily their skill set.
Nick, I thought it was quite interesting how much Lasat Malenga on the boundary rope we saw in the telecast today, because you know he's been brought in as a consultant. I'm of the opinion that I reckon he wants to be the next head coach. I don't know if that's a likely thing to happen, or you know, I have no insight into that whatsoever. But I kind of feel that that's what he's been trying to achieve. Do you think that he might be suggesting the kind of slower balls?
I mean, it was his classic at the back end of the innings, right? So I wouldn't be surprised. I think also it seemed like a pitch where the ball wasn't coming onto the bat, so the slower you bowl, the more it sticks in the pitch. So I can kind of see the logic. For me, the bigger question is, was that today a two-seamer pitch? Like, wouldn't Sri Lanka have been better off playing, like stuffing the team with, I don't know, Kamindu? I don't think Sadira can bowl, but you know, like batters who can bowl a bit of spin, because to me DDS looked more effective than the two seamers once the ball lost its shine. And like I was kind of thinking at the back end of the innings, like, we're going to have to go back to seam at some stage. You can talk about the suitability of the pitch, but you got to play with what's in front of you. And I don't think that was a two-seamer pitch. I think if it is, you want to go with Milan Ratnayaka as one of them who can at least lengthen the batting order.
Yeah.
Guys, you want to come on and have a chat with us, please do. I'll put the link in to come on now. There you go. So click on it. I think KK has clicked on it, but your device isn't connected, so I can't bring you on. Loads to discuss in this game. I want to talk about someone who's, well, there's two kind of maligned players in Sri Lanka's white ball setup at the moment, DDS and Janath Lianage. My opinion of Lianage is regardless of what you think about how often he's able to find the boundary or his suitability to play different formats, I'm of the opinion that he never let Sri Lanka down. I thought today he came in and didn't let Sri Lanka down again. Maybe you could say that the way his dismissal, you know, wasn't great, but I felt he had a pretty good game, and I think we need to talk about DDS's performance in general as well. Not particularly good with the bat. However, he did get a wicket, and he did kind of hold up his 8 overs. Right, Nick?
Yeah, Yuvashant has brought up just what I was thinking today, was that he was the best bowler, I think, for Sri Lanka at the 2019 World Cup. And on these kind of pitches, as a bowling all-rounder, he's useful, right? I said to you guys on text that I think he's a far superior bowler to Charith. I think he's got much, much better control. And yeah, on spinning pitches, he's really useful. Just to make a point about Janath Lianage as well. For me, at the moment, he's an absolute lock for the 50 over side. My issue with him is in T20s, but I think he's improving his boundary hitting, particularly against spinners. And I think, yeah, in this 50 over format, he delivers for Sri Lanka, as does Vanders every time he gets called up. You don't see him too often, but every time he does, he's on point. Call him, I don't know, the milkman, the postman, whatever. But whenever he gets the chance, those googlies are coming for you.
I don't think milkmen exist in Sri Lanka, do they?
That's why I thought it was like a good analogy for Vanders, because you don't see them very often, but when they come, they deliver. The bread van.
Yeah, the bread van. Let me try and take the what do you call it? The overlay off, and I will bring Kai into the conversation. Now, how do I do that? I'm being like a real uncle today, aren't I? I'm being well slow. And then I've got to click this one. And then Kai, thanks for joining us, bro. How's it going?
Hey man, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. For those who don't know, me and Nick met Kai in at Lord's last year.
Yeah, it was a year ago now.
Yeah, year ago.
It doesn't feel like
great to see you again, Kai.
No, it doesn't feel like that long ago, does it?
No,
is that a Sports in Lisbon top you're wearing?
It is. I got a Ronaldo. I bought it in Morocco a while back.
Oh, lovely. Lovely. So what do you think of the performance today then?
I really enjoyed that. I've had exams on at the moment, so I'm watching bits and pieces of it. But I really enjoyed in the middle overs, like watching Murali End. I thought he was really good. I think he should play every game for Sri Lanka. I don't know. It's just my opinion. I find it frustrating watching players like kind of who are like in their mid to late 30s who always get call ups, and like Barnaker and like players like that or Avishka who don't regularly perform. I think we should pick young players on talent based. Like obviously you don't want to go too far. England took it a bit too far and got destroyed in Australia, but you want to have a blend, and I feel like someone like Murali End who performs regularly should be in every team. He's got fifers against India like twice, I think, and I think he might have won against Australia as well. And he performs with the bat as well, so I don't see why you wouldn't play him every game. And players like that and Pataran, I really want to see him in the ODI setup, and I want to see him in the Test setup, because I think someone who bowls at pace, we don't produce fast bowlers, right? So have someone like that. He's probably the fastest bowler we've ever produced. I think he's up and around the same pace Malinga was bowling, but he does it more consistently. So I don't see why someone like that you wouldn't play every game. That's the only thing. And the death bowling at the end really frustrated me, because if you realize you can't execute a plan and you bowl like 7 slow balls in an over, I think Pramod Madhushan did, and you bowl like 2 wides and it's getting bashed for 6. Like the point of a slow ball is it's unpredictable. And it's not like moon balls like Sam Curran bowls. You need to bowl pace on balls and slower balls. You can't just bowl slower balls. But other than that, I really enjoyed watching.
Yeah, there's a lot there. Let's. I want to talk about the difference between Sri Lankan cricket culture and English cricket culture, because I was thinking about that a lot during the game. Dom, do you want to talk about Walla? Nick, you can talk about Patarana, because I know he's a personal special interest to you, and then I'll finish off with talk about the kind of culture stuff. Go on, Dom.
Yeah, I think I'm completely in agreement with you, Kai, that he contributes in every aspect of the game, and we have so many guys who, like, whether they're batting at 7 and not bowling or not doing much, he's always in and around the game, and I think he has a really prominent role to play in at least the T20 and the ODI squads. I think he could bat at 4. We've seen his batting improve. That 6 he hit down the ground was awesome, right? Like that was a clean down the ground hit. He's played around the world. He's played in the CPL. He's played in the ILT20, and other franchises are recognizing the amount of talent he has and the passion, the love of the game he has. Like, why would we go for a retread when we could bring in someone new like him who's got so much energy? And like, it seems like every game he plays, he's in the conversation for man of the match.
I mean, just to add to that, firstly, I think if you've got a kind of left arm spinner, they should always be in the conversation for being picked, because so many batters struggle with it. The reason why I've always been such a big fan of his is you can just see he's just got the right fighting mentality. When he's on the pitch, and today was a great example of it, it's like he's got kind of main character energy on a cricket pitch, which is so difficult. Think about how many players just drift through games and you don't even notice they're there. that catch today is unbelievable. With the bat, he kind of ends up accidentally winning it for us because of the decision to bowl 7 slow balls. And he's getting wickets. He's just got the right energy and the right mentality for the whole thing. Nick Pathirana, should he be in the ODI setup? Should he be in the Test setup?
Yeah, I feel exactly what you're saying with Pathirana, Kai. I love him too. I think his ceiling is sky high. And I mean, if you told me when was the ODI World Cup? End of 2023, that we'd be 2 and a bit years on and he wouldn't have played another ODI, I wouldn't have believed you. There still hasn't been any messaging around that. I would like someone from SLC to come out and say he can't bowl 10 over spells consistently at the moment because of the injury worries. There still hasn't really been any messaging about the remodeling of his action, whether that was something to try and help him swing the ball and bowl with the new ball, or whether that was to try and prevent injuries and take a bit of strain off the shoulder and back. I think maybe at this stage I'd love to see him in whites, but I think Test cricket is a step too far for him fitness-wise at the moment. But I think you've got to say that his career has been mishandled by SLC. I go back to the very first game he played in Sri Lanka colours, which I think was a T20 at the Asia Cup we won, right? And he played the first game against Afghanistan, got hit for 50, and then we didn't see him play for Sri Lanka again for another couple of years. In the meantime, he basically became the second best death bowler in the IPL. I don't understand how that works. I still can't believe he hasn't played more cricket for Sri Lanka. And I mean, if you look back at someone like Malinga's career, he didn't get it straight away, right? In his early days, he was erratic. Actually, at the start, he was seen as being too erratic to play ODI cricket for Sri Lanka. So, the only way someone like Pathirana improves is by game time. And I still really, really hope we're going to see him back to his best because, I mean, he can crack a game open, and he's one of those few bowlers who can take the pitch totally out of the equation, right? Flat pitch, he can come in the middle overs when nothing's happening and pick up the best players, bowl them out with absolute beauties. So I think if Sri Lanka can get him near his best, he could be a huge, huge string in their bow for the T20 World Cup and moving forward for the next decade in both white ball formats. And I'd love to see him play a Test one day.
Yeah, it was just like, oh, go ahead, Kai, go for it.
I just think it's a management thing, really. I think any player, any fast bowler should be able to play Test cricket if you are at the international level. And he's played first class cricket before, right? If you can't manage a bowler to let them play Test cricket, that's an issue with SLC, that he can't even get there. Because unless it's like something they've identified that they don't think he's got the skill set, that's different. But I do think he does, because someone who bowls that pace, who can bowl those Yorkers, and obviously Malinga didn't play Test for his whole life, and they for his whole career, they decided that at the end they wanted to have him focus on white ball, right? But when he did, he's like this. Only that he was the second Sri Lanka pacer after Vas at the time, and recently Lahiri Kumara to take 100 Test wickets. Right, he was good at Test cricket. That's undeniable, I think. And I think to see someone like Pathirana in whites and to have a genuinely very fast bowler who can, imagine him being able to reverse the ball in or bounce you. There's that extra element that an Asita Fernando doesn't have. Maybe a Lahiri Kumara does, but he's not as quick, right? There's off days where he's bowling 80, right?
And I think, also you don't have to bowl them that much in as a third pacer, right? You don't have to bowl them 15 overs. You can bowl them,
especially in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know? I think everything that everyone says makes so much sense. The Kai kind of hit the nail on the head though, because if you manage them properly, and you look around this Sri Lanka side, right? You look around our kind of stable of bowlers, and it's not just pace bowlers, it's spinners as well. So many of them end up getting one injury, then a second injury, then a third injury, and it's all soft muscle issues. It's like no one in Sri Lanka understands how to kind of nurture and look after a hamstring until they get torn a million times. I'm going to plug my interview with Banura, because I did an interview with Banura last week, Banura Fernando. That's on the Murali End. I think Dom's had to go off and do proper real work, sadly. I did an interview with Banura Fernando, and obviously he's a player that's had lots of injuries, and we talk a lot about that as well. And what's clear from that interview is there isn't much guidance for young bowlers. I mean, what I will say is, Pat Cummins lost years of his career, recovering from injuries. You look at, Jamie Overton, who's playing today, he lost years of his career with injuries. This isn't just a Sri Lankan problem. However, I do think if you are a full member of the ICC and you are trying to, you believe that you can compete in all three formats, and this is something maybe SLC should take a closer look at. I just don't trust them to be able to kind of handle getting Patirana into good enough shape to bowl, because we know what will happen. We'll end up in Bangladesh. We've misread the pitch, thinking it's going to be all spin. Turns out it doesn't spin at all. Patirana has a day where he bowls like 40 overs or something nuts like that, not 40, 25 or something, and then that'll be the end of him as a, that will destroy him as a red ball bowler and impact everything else, just because that's the kind of pattern of behavior that I'm seeing from SLC. Not just, it's not just a one-off, but you can track back almost as far back as you can go and be like, all right, they get things wrong a lot, and there isn't the support for players to kind of bring them back. That would be what I'd be worried about him playing. I just want to pick up on another point that you made, Kai, about the difference between Sri Lanka and England. Obviously, the three of us now in the call have all live in England. I think with English cricket, there's such a big cultural change or difference to Sri Lankan cricket. In Sri Lanka, if you play for Sri Lanka, you kind of can't show weakness, and there is a pressure to win every single game, even if you go play a test match in India. Sri Lanka have got playing test in India later this year, right? And there is such a big gap in terms of the experience of the players, in terms of the quality of the wickets, quality of facilities that is on offer to both the sides. But there'll still be expectations that Sri Lanka have got to go and win. Well, I think in England, there kind of isn't expectation to win amongst England fans, which is a really weird scenario for any kind of professional sports team to be in, especially when you consider how well resourced England are compared to almost every other kind of test team. You'd say only maybe Australia and India have kind of equivalent resources, right? And overall, I think actually maybe Sri Lanka have got some aspects of the kind of cricket culture right, and maybe England have got some aspects of it right, and you kind of need them to both, ideally, to both meet in the middle. I think Australia have kind of met in the middle a little bit, where it's like, yeah, it is about competing and it is about winning, but it's not everything. You can go out and have a bad day and that's fine, and then you can go and relax afterwards. How many times at some point, Sri Lanka, even if they get to the final and lose, people will be disappointed with that, and the players will have to. There'll be some kind of backlash if we don't win the World Cup, and the players will react by essentially going on social media and showing that they're doubling down. Within the first 24, 36 hours, we'll get images of them being in the gym or of them flying. Like, how often do you see Sri Lanka players get a flight that lands in Colombo at 6 a.m. and then they're playing first class cricket at 9 a.m. And I'm like, who is benefiting from this? Like, not the player. Like, what is the point? But they've got to show that they're committed to the cause all the time, which goes back to SLC aren't looking after our players and they're getting injured. So yeah, I think there is quite a stark difference between the two cultures. Maybe that was the 19 runs difference today. Maybe that's the reason why Sri Lanka are doing much better as an ODI team. I don't know, but I think it's worth kind of pointing that out. I don't know what you think about that, Kai.
Yeah, I guess it's a balance, isn't it? But also, I think the difference in England and Sri Lanka, like, I'd expect Sri Lanka to win as many test matches as possible because you want to go out there and play to win. That's because we play about 3 or 4 a year. Like,
yeah,
it'd be very difficult for us to say we don't happily accept 2 to 3 losses a year if you're only playing that many test matches a year, because then you really start to sink. And so there's big pressure on the tests. Think about how many tests England play, and obviously they play an exceptional amount compared to every other country. But they play a ridiculous amount, which is why they can afford to lose, and they could try out Shah Bashir, and they could kind of experiment with Liam Dawson and whoever else it was. And for some reason, the system of Zach Crawley at the top. But Sri Lanka don't play enough cricket to do that. So something's got to change there. We need to play more test cricket, and it can't just be in Gaul. It needs to come back to Colombo as well. And obviously, we've got 2 or 3 test grounds where you can play. Why not play a 5-match series against an England or against an Australian? Really like try and challenge ourselves rather than play 3-match test series away in England, which is the last time I saw you guys, and then 2 matches against the Australians, and we barely play India recently. So it kind of baffles me why we play so little test cricket.
Do you want me to answer those questions? Because I can answer them succinctly for you, because I've gone away and I'm speaking to the right people. Basically, Sri Lanka would love to play 5-test series. However, nobody wants to come to Sri Lanka and play a 5-test series against us. That isn't because they don't want to come to Sri Lanka. Of course, we all know Sri Lanka's as close to kind of paradise, as close to heaven on earth as you can get. It's because the finances don't make any sense. When we do get a 2-match series, they're always played at Gaul because it's cheaper to play them in the same venue, because you kind of get a scale if you're going to play it for 10 days in the same place, opposed to 5 days in Gaul and then moving on to Colombo or Pallekele or wherever else you might want to play them. The big issue that Sri Lanka have, the SLC have, is that they just can't find people who want to play test matches against them outside the World Test Championship kind of allotted tests. They're well up for playing more test matches, even though unless you play England, Australia or India, they'll probably lose money on them, but they can't find people who want to play them. They lose about $500,000 every test they play against those the kind of non-big three. The other thing I will add to that is, as somebody who kind of follows sports rights and kind of the marketing of professional sport, if you look at the way Test series or England series abroad are being sold in the UK, essentially Sky aren't bidding anymore, so there's only one bidder, which is TNT Sport, which means that we're having to watch this series on TNT Sport, which means that because there's no competition, the fees for that are heading in a downward direction. I'm also acutely aware that TNT Sport is about to be taken over by Netflix because it's part of Warner Brothers. I have no idea if they will see any value in showing England away tours. Part of that is because England just don't play well away, so England fans don't care about it. I mean, they were struggling to find someone to buy the Ashes. TNT Sport came in they lowballed an offer just kind of a couple of 6 or 7 weeks before. If they can't sell an away Ashes series, then they're really going to struggle to sell England playing 5 tests in Sri Lanka, which is the reason why we're not getting all that. It's the kind of economics of it all, which is a real shame for us, right? It's a real shame for the players as well. I do wonder if we'll ever see another Sri Lankan player get to 100 test matches. I think we talk about Patarana playing test matches, and people talk about Hasaranga playing more tests and Theekshana playing more tests. I think at some stage, if those 3 players do end up playing test match, it might happen because Sri Lanka end up playing like 2 or 3 tests a year, so they just go, I'll have a go. Like this idea of kind of developing an 11 that just only plays red ball cricket, it's not really going to work for Sri Lanka because they're not playing. It's kind of like a novelty side at this point. I don't know what you think about that, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Sri Lanka don't play enough cricket away from home generally across formats. So I was looking at it since the start of 2024. I think we've had 4 away ODI series. So the one we just had in Pakistan, 1 in New Zealand, 1 in Bangladesh, and there's one other that I'm forgetting, and 1 in Zimbabwe. So like that doesn't massively prepare you for a World Cup in South Africa when you're mostly playing on dust bowls at home. So like that is again an economics thing, isn't it? That Sri Lanka aren't the biggest draw, so they're not getting invites from the bigger nations as regularly as they'd like. I know we're going to England later, but you want to see Sri Lanka getting more series against, India and India, Australia and Australia, South Africa and South Africa, England and England. My other point that I think Kai's brought out, which is really interesting, is I think Sri Lanka have a problem both like trusting youth and also nurturing youth. I think if you look at how many exciting players have emerged over the past sort of 4 or 5 years, I mean, Is Dilshan Madushanka where we thought he would be now? Is Patirana, is Theeks, is even Hasaranga? And like the ones who buck the trend are people like Pathum Nissanka who really take it on their own back and clearly work incredibly hard. So, I mean, yeah, I think just, couple of thoughts from me. I'd like to see them going more with youth, but maybe this win always mentality doesn't help, and the lack of cricket feeds into that. And this sort of tendency is to go with uncles or go with experience when you think that things are going to be tough and you need to win.
Kai, we're going to let you go in a minute, but before we do that, I'm going to have to tell you off because you came on and said you don't want to see players in their late 20s, 30s and mid 30s playing for Sri Lanka. I'm going to uncle you here and be like, that is still young. Like Angelo Matthews is 39, and that is he is a young man who could definitely has a lot to give to Sri Lanka cricket.
The wrong crowd, Kai.
Yeah. You need to save that for Snapchat or wherever all the other kids are at these days. Kai, thanks for coming on. Are you going to come back on soon? Yeah. Thanks. Are you going to come back on soon?
Yeah, of course.
Wicked. We'll let you go.
Good to see you, Kai.
Yeah,
good to see you guys.
We'll see you soon. When I let you go, you can just hang about for a minute backstage so that you can fully upload your recording. Wicked. I'm trying to see if there's any other comments. Let's pick this one from Amu. Why didn't Kamindu Mendis play? He's a really good bat and decent bowler. Amu 901. I don't know if you've just found Murali End or Murali End's just found you, but part of what we try and do here is we do not try and justify decisions SLC make because sometimes they make no sense whatsoever. It is interesting though because a year ago, Kamindu Mendis was one of the hottest players in the world. And now he's out of the team, and it's kind of difficult to kind of explain why, especially on a day like today when they knew they needed some spin options as well, Nick, right?
Yeah, I've talked till I'm blue in the face about how I feel like Kamindu's been mismanaged. I thought in T20 cricket he was going really well at number 3 last year, and I was surprised that he was shifted back into the lower middle order. I think ultimately just like, you see the way that he's batted in test match cricket and how successful he's been attacking bowlers. And like anyone, I think, would see that that's a guy who looks like he should be successful in white ball cricket and the kind of talent Sri Lanka should be nurturing. I know the numbers aren't there at the moment. They weren't for Sanath for the first 5 or 6 years of his career, so he should understand. And yeah, I'd love to see Kamindu getting a longer run. I find it frustrating that it feels like things are drifting for him.
Someone said they watched the game on Netflix. What part of the world was this game on Netflix? I don't know. I'm trying to see if there's any other comments. Lahindu said, still can't take that last wicket. It's interesting because I kind of feel like when you look at that side, it's like they forgot that someone had to bowl at the end, and I feel that's like a semi-common theme. How many times have we seen Dustin Shanaka in T20s have to bowl the last or penultimate over as well because they've kind of forgot that someone has to do it?
Yeah, I mean, even when Madushan, he bowled 2, right? And then he had a little break and came back and bowled the 10th. And I just thought he looked so much less impactful once the ball stopped nipping around for him. I know he picked up 3 with those slower balls at the end, but I don't think the strategy was bang on from Sri Lanka today, although playing one seamer seems kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like...
But it's the thing to do on these kind of pitches, right?
Yeah, so I still kind of feel that maybe this was an 11 or just So I think Sri Lanka have never had this many bowlers, right? Like, in Sri Lanka's history, there's never been this amount of really talented bowlers, and I kind of feel they don't know what to do with them. And their initial thought is, the ODI World Cup's miles away, stick them in the ODI squad. And then today they were like, right, let's give Pramod a go. Obviously, he's brilliant, and he took wickets there, and he was really effective. Apart from maybe kind of not really understanding what to do at the end, that kind of penultimate over, and he is a great bowler. But I do kind of feel it was a bit like, right, these are the guys who we want to get more caps on, and this is a moment to kind of give it to them, I suppose, right? That was kind of my read. I like this
I like
question.
your take, Marky, that they were trying to keep the bowlers for the T20 World Cup fit by not playing them.
Yeah, because I mean, we've been critical in the past, right? Where we've said, Asita Fernando, for example, I felt like he went 18 months. He never didn't play for Sri Lanka. He was bowling every over that he was possibly allowed to bowl, right? He was bowling half a day of a test match and then bowling 4 overs in the T20 game and 10 overs in an ODI. And now they are kind of rotating and letting people rest. We know Hasaranga long term is a kind of injury worry, and we know he's turned up to World Cups not fully fit before, so it makes perfect sense for him to kind of sit at least today out and maybe even the next game out, maybe the whole ODI series out. I don't know. So I mean, we shouldn't knock it, but
how gutted will be if Hasaranga or Theeks or Esha Malinga went down in one of these games. It'd be
when Kusal Mendes went down around the 40th over, I was like, oh no. You've Shant's come up with something. If England sack Baz, I hope he comes to Sri Lanka. I think he's a genuine good coach. I'm guessing You've Shant, you didn't A, watch the Ashes, or B, don't follow English cricket too closely. Also, I mean, when I think of Brendan McCullum as England coach, I've got that image of him asleep in the dressing room window, changing room window at Lord's, and I just cannot imagine how that would go down if you ever did that in or around the Sri Lanka team. I'd imagine it'd be instant sacking, instantly deported, not allowed back in Sri Lanka ever again.
I mean, the real uncles, not us, like the 60-plus uncles, would absolutely hate McCullum. But I kind of see where Yuvashant's coming from. Like, I'm not sure McCullum is a great coach, but what he did really well in the early days of his England tenure was like lift confidence levels, right? Really puff everyone up. And I've consistently felt that that's something that this Sri Lanka side needs. So it's a left field pick. I don't think it'll happen, but I wouldn't hate it.
Javanta's written, that's the wrong one, sorry. We can't afford McCullum. Isn't he paid above £1 million by the ECB? Thank goodness for that. Well, I assume that once he loses the England job, like no one else is coming in with £1 million for him. If he loses the England job. Yes. So he's gotta kind of take what he's given to some degree. We're being uncles. Like, look, man, in our culture, that is uncle. Uncle's a good uncle, isn't it? There was another comment I saw that I wanted to bring up. Oh, here we go. Amu again. Now that you work with Jared, you cannot say anything against DDS. Remember that. That's absolutely true. I mean, it's really weird how the moment Combox comes into the world, Dan and Jared De Silva ends up almost out of nowhere in kind of white ball squads for Sri Lanka. You just got to think Jared's the puppet master here, pulling various strings, isn't he? Part of that is I'm not a betting guy myself, but it's also weird that the first show that arrives at Combox moments before a T20 World Cup starts is a Sri Lanka cricket show. So maybe Jared knows something else about what the gods of cricket have planned for this World Cup. This is an interesting comment. Darindu has said, we can't hire foreign coaches for the good vibes and fist pumps. We already have Sanath for that.
It's a fair point, but Sanath's coming with a bit more like uncle strictness, isn't he?
Yeah, I thought the kind of Sanath vibe was kind of discipline, right?
I think it's a blend of like discipline and like I'm your childhood hero, but I don't think McCullum's ever given anyone a dressing down, right? This is purely speculative now. Yeah,
I mean, it is quite extraordinary that Harry Burke gets into an issue with the nightclub bouncer the day before a game and ends up still captaining the team the next day. And there doesn't appear to have been any sort of repercussions. I mean, that was just so unacceptable within Sri Lankan cricket culture, right? Like we tried to give lifetime bans to people for stepping outside of a hotel in Durham. The Wint has said something should be SLT, mental spiritual leader, principal with a cane. I think that's kind of what he
was before he was coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would like to see him with a cane.
Oh no.
And not in
Javante's
sort of like kinky sex way.
Yeah, I think too many people have already seen that. Javantes said it was kind of sad hearing you guys talk about Sri Lankan players getting to 100 tests. I don't think we'll have another one. Yeah, I think there is. Someone said Chandy's on 80 tests. I mean, Sri Lanka played, 4 tests last year? So if you're on 80 tests, potentially you've got to play, and let's say we're averaging kind of 6 tests a year, you'd have to play for another kind of 10, 12 years if you got to 80 tests. So yeah,
it's really unlikely, right? Unless someone breaks through at sort of 17, 18 and plays for 15 years.
Yeah, I suppose you could break through at 17 and play for 20 years.
Yeah, but it's unlikely.
Yeah, it's kind of unlikely. I'm trying to pick out some other interesting comments. Was there any earlier? Oh yeah, someone reminding us that England cheated with a ball change in the second test at Lords. Don't need to talk about that. That's a bit yesterday's news. Nick, should we leave it there? We've been going for about 50 minutes. Guys, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do, be it on Cricket Smash or be it on Combox. We'll be live shortly after the end of the second ODI, which is on Saturday as well. If you haven't done so, please do check out my Bruno Fernando interview and follow us across socials. And we'll see you then. See you all later. Bye.
It's the Murali End, you're the place to be. Analyze the players and the team. Keep a great company in the stream. It's a Murali End. Welcome to the show. We're here when you're high. We're here when you're low. Some days you're happy, some days you wanna when happy it's we, when man it's them. It's the same place, Murali End. Sri Lanka cricket we gon' represent. So tell a friend.